I'm doing a giveaway. Stick around to the end of the video to find out how you can enter to win. What is up, everybody? I'm NoLexGiven, and today we are going to be talking Fork and Rod in Storybook Brawl. Fork and Rod is a super powerful treasure, and obviously there's all of those synergies with like Crystal Ball and Hat and Aeon and all of that stuff, but Fork and Rod can also just be a powerful enough treasure in its own right, especially when you are playing Wonder Waddle and can get it super early on in the game. That is part of the reason I cast this Forbidden Fruit, just looking for some more animals, and we are going to be lucky enough to find ourselves with a pair of blind mice, and that is going to get us a tier 4 treasure on next turn. I'm also going to have my game crash, so that part's a little bit awkward, but we will load back up. New Storybook Brawl videos every day. Check me out. Feel free to subscribe. Just hit 800 subscribers, so here's a nice little chance to plug myself again. But we are going to get back into it. We're going to pick up that blind mouse. We aren't going to have too much time left on the clock by the time we are loaded back in. And I'm actually thinking about what I want to do as I am trying to get my game to load back up here, and was just having some issues with Steam and everything, but we are able to get back into it. We are going to quickly pick up that blind mouse. I have an idea of what treasures I want and don't want, and I might pick up the Wizard's Familiar alongside those, but when we find Forking Rod, we can actually just roll the die and pick up 2 of these characters. So that's really good. I am going to wind up finding ourselves with a Sherwood Sure Shot and a Wizard's Familiar. So this is a really great start to the game, and we are going to make great use out of this Forking Rod throughout the game as well. We are going to get the Slay with Polywoggle, and we will take a little bit more damage, down to 28, so not doing super hot, but we have a Forking Rod, and that is going to be pretty strong for us. I'm going to wind up picking up a Witch's Brew to make Queen of Hearts a little bit stronger. It's going to give +2/+2 to the Queen of Hearts and +2/+2 to Wizard's Familiar, which for 1 coin, basically casting a Toil and Trouble, I'll take it. And then just going to hope basically that this stag is enough to win us the fight. We don't have any synergies with the Queen of Hearts currently, so that part is a little bit awkward, but we are going to slowly crawl out of this hole that we have found ourselves in with the Forking Rod. That's kind of the idea with Wonder Waddle in my mind sometimes, is like take some early hits to get a big advantage with some sweet treasures, and then kind of try to crawl out of that hole down the line. And spinning gold, if we can manage to crawl out of said hole, is going to be really strong for us. So I do want to consider trying to win this combat this turn. I'm just kind of hoping that the stag is enough to do so, but maybe I want to sell the golden chicken and pick up a black cat to pump up the Queen of Hearts as well. That'll give us a little bit more win equity. The other thing that I could have done is picked up the Shadow Assassin in the previous shop and used that to support or to also get pumped up by the stag and just have a backline full of ranged units here. But ultimately, I think that this might be strong enough to win. We are playing up against Skip, who is the only player in this lobby doing worse than us. And unfortunately, we don't get our stag attack off, but it does look like we are going to have just enough stats to get a win here. So really lucky. That's going to give us bonus gold off of this spinning gold, which is a nice addition to just give us a whole bunch more stats here. I'm going to take Potion Master's Cookbook. That'll do well with the Forking Rod. And from here, I mean, Spellweaver seems really good, and Genie's Wish seems too good to pass up on. To double cast a Genie's Wish, that's going to give +4/+4 to... No, it's going to give +8/+8 to the Wizard's Familiar, right? Let me go back and check that. Was it a 7/7? Yeah, so it gives +8/+8 to Wizard's Familiar because it casts 4 spells, each giving +2/+2 to the cat. So yeah, definitely a good use of coin there. And then I'll probably just round this turn out by, I could see like picking up some animals here. At the very least, we're going to pick up this golden chicken. Maybe we don't need to pick up this donkey as well, but I'm eyeing up just picking up the donkey, selling off the blind mouse, and then picking up the golden chicken. And that'll give us a pretty strong board for the current time. And then I'm looking to pick up either Merlin's Hat or Crystal Ball off the stag or the donkey. Both of those will give us some really strong directions to move into. So that is kind of the idea from here. Do feel like we are all of a sudden just really, really powerful with this absolutely massive Wizard's Familiar. So not really sweating it too much at this point. It is going to be a very close combat, but it will be a combat that we win. We only kidnap once because the kidnap wasn't forked, though that kidnap is going to give us a black cat from our opponent, which gives us some additional econ going into this turn as well. We are going to use that econ to pick up a donkey, which unfortunately doesn't find us any of the treasures that we named, and I do find another donkey here, which is cool. There's also a monster book, but I think that Mix-a-Wizzle is the way to go. Mix-a-Wizzle plus Forking Rod gives us a tier 5 unit. If it gave us a good unit, then we could Shard of the Ice Queen it and then get to keep a tier 5 unit, though because it wasn't a good unit, now we are just looking for True Love's Kiss, and we roll down, eventually finding the True Love's Kiss. I'm going to fire that off. Now we've got an upgraded tier 6 unit on 4.0. That's pretty good, and that's all thanks to Forking Rod doubling up the Mix-a-Wizzle, as well as getting a little bit lucky here. At this point, I really just need to roll for some more dwarves. I want to try to find greedy as well as some other additional dwarves once we eventually level up. But for right now, I think that angry is going to be enough to carry us into the later stages of the game, and it'll give us a bunch of econ as well if we can find some greedy action to pair with it. Don't really care enough about Princess White. Let's just roll, try to find some dwarves, and actually find an animal. And we also find a Masquerade Ball. I'm going to check one more time for Crystal Ball or Merlin's Hat. Not quite going to get there. So let's fire off this Masquerade Ball, which is also doubled up thanks to Forking Rod, and is also going to give us another Lordy. So at this point, we're pretty firmly in dwarves. There is a River Wish Mermaid alongside a Baba Yaga, which is a cool combination of cards as well, but we gotta play some dwarves here. The dwarves are just in the cards, so now we are definitely gonna be looking for Lordy, and at this point, we're not really looking to capitalize on our Forking Rod that much. I know we have the Wizard's Familiar. That brought us to here. You can notice that we are at 28 health. We haven't taken damage since we upgraded that Wizard's Familiar and dual cast that Genie's Wish. So now it is time for these Lordies to take us home. And that's okay to pivot from mages into dwarves when the Forking Rod just gives you such a huge incentive to change around what your comp is doing. We're going to deliver some nice damage there to Krampus, and then we see a pair of dwarves, and I really don't hate picking up Crafty. I don't love the Tiny, though. I think we can do better than that. I also think we can do better than Bossy. I could have seen picking up the XP there, but I'm really just looking for Greedy. That's like the best dwarf that you can pick up, enough so that I'm even going to roll past that first Amy. Though this second Amy, I certainly have to consider a little bit more, and then I could also consider selling off 3 of my characters to pick up a Lucky, though Lucky isn't really what you want to see in your endgame dwarves comp, so I'm just going to ignore it, pick up the Amy here, and I think that that's enough. Yeah, the Lucky, when you're already giving it a whole bunch of stats, it's like not really doing anything for you. It would give +6/+6 to each of my other dwarves, because that's what Lordy does. +6/+6 to each dwarf for each dwarf that I have. So there's definitely something to be said about that, but I'd rather just save my gold, and by gold I mean my characters that are already pretty strong themselves, and we will wind up selling those things off in future turns if we can find some better stuff here now that we are level 5. And Greedy is definitely just what the doctor ordered here. There's also a Masquerade Ball, so I'll fire that off, taking a look for some more dwarves. Not going to be so lucky this time, but that's okay. This Forking Rod has already done more than enough for us. After that, I'll roll and pick up a Tweedledee, and then that'll round off the turn. But now we are playing a full squad of 7 dwarves here, and we have the Greedy, and we have also got the Tweedle, so everything is looking pretty nice. I think that all of this is pretty good at this point, and yeah, I like it. Greedy going to be able to give us some additional econ. This is basically what I try to do whenever I find an early Lordy, and I always feel like maybe I'm underselling the capacity of dwarves, but for my money, dwarves is really just a comp that you play. in this exact position when you find yourselves with an early Lordy, which can be from XP, can be from Masquerade Ball, it can be from True Love's Kiss, but really those are the only scenarios when I want to play Dwarves, myself personally, other than like some very random specific instances outside of that. I'm going to wind up casting off the end to round out this turn here. That'll make us level 6 next turn, and then we can start looking for some more Lordies and Echo Woods and things and just continue to get more powerful to round out this lobby. I'm going to wind up selling off Golden Chicken and picking up doubly. I could have honestly seen just selling off the Wizard's Familiar and Spellweaver there, hanging on to Golden Chicken because we are still Wonder Waddle, though that's just like a small thing. But I mean, it is relevant. We potentially cost ourselves some gold there, potentially cost ourselves a look at a tier 2 treasure as well, which can be fun with Dwarves, but we are still going to be plenty strong. It probably doesn't matter too much. Since we were at 28 health and at the bottom of the lobby, we have not lost a single game, and now we are at the top of the lobby with 31 health. So doing pretty good for ourselves here, all things considered, getting a kill onto the Fates, and now we are on 6.0. So we'd like to find a few more Dwarves, and I think we can still pick up another Greedy. I think this is still fine. Cut the Amy. That is definitely not necessary. And then we would have sold off the Golden Chicken on this turn regardless, because I went to Knighthood, another Lordy, and now I've got 2 upgraded Lordies. And we're doing pretty good. 2 upgraded Lordies on before 6.0 even. This is actually 5.2, and then these Greedies are just going to make us a ton of cash. But yes, to circle back to that point, it is worth knowing how to play Dwarves from this perspective, because it does happen more often than you think. And I think that is kind of undersold because this seems so random, like how do you get all of these Lordies? But if you play enough Storybook Brawl, instances like this will happen for you, and so it's good to know what you should do in this instance is just pick up some Greedies and start trying to roll the lobby as quickly as you can with some absolutely massive Dwarves, and then take that gold that you are gaining from all of these Greedies and just continue to absolutely wreck the place. We're going to get a ton of gold from all of our Greedies here, and then a little bit more gold from my opponent's prized pig even, and that is going to give us 20 gold this turn. Pretty powerful stuff. I will upgrade the Greedy just so that way we can keep it on the board for a little bit longer, and I don't hate the Fool's Gold. It's a little bit awkward with the Forking Rod and other treasure that we have, though. And so I just wind up going for Reduplicator, which isn't super impressive, but does work with Tweedle. So I wind up picking that up, and then I Dream. There's a few things that I'm looking for here. If we could find something like Pan's Shadow, or Gwen, or the Fates, any of those things would be really good. We're just going to wind up picking up Potion Master because none of those heroes were particularly impressive, and then I wind up tripling doubly. And one of the reasons that I don't hate tripling this doubly is because we do have this Reduplicator, so we are going to quickly fill up our lanes as well when our Tweedle dies, so that is not the worst thing in the world. We only get a little bit of extra gold on this one from our Greedy, but we are still looking more than large enough to take out this Zelhua and move ourselves potentially onto the finals. No, we still have a few more games to play as Morgan defeated the pup. So Morgan potentially going to be our finals opponent, but before we get there, we got to take out this pup as well. Don't really think I want Angry at this point in the game. If I had the Falling Stars or something, then we could have gone for it, and then I cast Falling Stars and then I pick up Angry. So kind of silly working my way backwards into it, but even so, like, maybe this Angry is just kind of a waste of gold, and I'm not even sure that I really want to play it even on this board, because I do kind of still want to play this Greedy, and I'd also potentially like to get in this Tweedle somewhere, but I'm just going to wind up benching the Tweedle, knowing that Morgan is our finals opponent and that Pup beat Morgan. I'm just going to hope that we can beat this Morgan as well, grab some additional gold off of Greedy, and hope that we have the stats to take down this Slay player, and looks like we will. We are going to walk out of here with a little bit of extra gold as well for our troubles and a kill onto Pup. So now we are on to the finals. Looking really good, all really thanks to Forking Rod. It gave us a really strong start to the game and just allowed us to be powerful throughout. I'm going to wind up casting off a Knighthood and then just trying to play the strongest board that we can from there, and that is going to include cutting down on some of these lesser dwarves and playing just the good ones that matter. Just Tweedle, Doubly, Echowood, Lordy, and that's it. Just these 4 units in some combination, but I think that this is really strong. All of these units are basically having synergies with Echowood at this point. The Tripoli gives a bunch of stats to Echowood, and then the Tweedles, when they resummon, also give a bunch of stats to Echowood. I'm just going to try to split up these Tweedles a little bit, putting one in slot 3 and having my smaller Lordy go in slot 2, so that way it can potentially die and leave space for the reduplication, because otherwise we are not going to have the space on the board to use that reduplicator. So now that the Lordy's died, our second Tweedle will be able to reduplicate. That is kind of saved, and that is going to give us a whole bunch of stats on our Echowood. Will it be enough? My opponent also with a large Echowood in the back line. This could be a close combat. It is going to be quite close indeed, but we are going to get the win with an Echowood remaining there, and that is going to get us into a first place finish with some Forking Rod Dwarves. Really fun game. Definitely a little bit different. I think that, and I believe that I said this at the beginning as well, but people know about the power of Forking Rod when you're crystal balling and you've got Had and Aeon and you're doing all that fancy stuff, but Forking Rod can just be a good treasure just because it is doubling some of those really powerful economy spells in the shop. That is going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'm No Lex Given. Peace. This week's giveaway word is level. Each week I use a new code word. That's just to distinguish who's commenting for which week, and the reason I have you guys say a code word, that way I can tell who is interested in the dust and who's just commenting to say hi or that they enjoyed the video, stuff like that. You can definitely do both. Just make sure you include this week's code word. You can also enter as many times as you want per week, once per video. You can go back, leave comments on old videos, just make sure they include this week's word, but there's no limit to how many times you can enter, other than, I guess, the amount of videos that I have. And I've been putting out a bunch of Storybook Brawl videos since last October, so yeah, there are a bunch of opportunities to enter to win. You can go through the backlog and watch some of those, but it's been really fun to receive the comments from you guys, get that level of interaction. You can also come join me on my Discord, which I'm trying to grow right now, just so that I have, one, feedback on my titles and thumbnails and things like that, but I also have some fun ideas for special game modes that I could make work with lobbies of players in the future. So feel free to check that out as well. There is a link to that in the video description, and help me climb on my way to 1,000 subscribers. I'm getting there slowly but surely, and thank you guys all very much for your support.